Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. I would like to explain what happens when you have a society that has a large sprawling intelligence agency. For that, I am using now the organigram that I always use in my videos here. This is to represent society. We have, and now I should say, if we want to represent an entire nation state, we have to, in our minds, alter the organigram slightly. So in the case of a company, how I used this organigram before, it really meant power structures, so decision-making structures. So the person here would be a team leader making decisions for the people below. This would be a manager making decisions for entire teams, and that would be maybe the boss of a company. So I would like to use the same model to explain to you exactly the same effect. But this time, I would like you to imagine that what you essentially have is, let's assume we have the perfect society, a wonderful, wonderful society whereby the people at the bottom listen to and are influenced by the people who can give them something that brings them further. In a sense, these could be thought leaders here, inventors who create technology that are then used by others, or entrepreneurs who found a company who other people essentially find jobs, or doctors who then heal people, and so on and so on. And the people wanted are those people who help even more. Let's say this would be a doctor who maybe develops a new drug, who then passes it on to other doctors, who in turn pass it on to their patients, and so on. So I now want to take this as a model of a perfect society. Let's say today is day 0 and we're looking at a society in an imagined country that is perfectly stacked like that. In a pyramid organization, as long as this stacking is really immaculate, this is wonderful because you have the thought leaders, essentially passing it on, influencing others in a positive way, who then amplify it in turn, and so on. And you have the leaders all working to essentially help the thought leaders and help the people who drive the world or this country further. This is the idea. So this is how I mean this. It's not a strict organigram. The lines here, these blue lines, mean influence. These people have, the people up here have somehow some sort of power over others. They have a power over either through the ideas they spread or the policies that they make, and so on and so on and so on. So imagine that, duplicated for whatever aspect of our society you want. Okay, good. And I'm going to base now this entire discussion on a video that I made, which is about system inversions. So I encourage you, if you have the time, to please, before I continue, maybe watch or skim watch the video I made entitled Systems Analysis Basics and System Inversions, because there you find the other diagram that I made on this side here, and it's the same thing. It's essentially a mirror image of exactly the same organization, but here I have color-coded the different levels, and what I mean to show here is essentially the same society as here, but highlighted the amounts of skills that they have. So I would like the green to mean that these people have more skill than the people below. Okay, so these people are those who either don't influence anybody in turn, or who have very low skill, or very low motivation, or very low whatever. It's basically, in terms of our society, they are not really the driving engines, really. Or maybe you take the black to be also, oh, these are the members who are not very beneficial to our society either, take it however you like, but they are essentially the bottom tier in that sense. Now, in this ideal society, the good people manage to get to the place where they are, and their thought leaders in turn, or their leaders in turn, are even better than them. So I take this axis and these levels to mean skill, or the beneficial effect that they have on society. And then at the top I put, Mr. Golden Boy, who's absolutely amazing. In this dream society, the people at the top are brilliant, beautiful, intelligent, very productive, and generally just beneficial for society. Let's say as a model, okay? Good. So now let's assume we all know that our societies do not look like this, right? We all know that not the best people are, taking care of others, and not the best thought leaders are really the most beneficial people. We all know that. But let's assume we had a society that was this perfect. Now let's look at what would happen if to a wonderfully efficient society like that, you would introduce a large intelligence agency that does exactly what these intelligence agencies are doing to us victims now. That means gang stalking, break-ins, damage to property, sabotage of electronic equipment, theft, modifying car radios, being shot at with microwave weapons, having miscellaneous harebrained human experimentation programs, hive mind teams, you name it, okay? Let's take all that and impose it now on this beautiful society. Let's start with the gang stalkers. Well, what the intelligence agencies are doing essentially with what they're doing to us, which is put us at the mercy of gang stalkers, you can figure that out by having a look at, if you're a victim, you know pretty much what I'm talking about. If you've never heard about this, let me tell you. When you're at the mercy of gang stalkers, the gang stalkers are essentially the national surveillance network of the intelligence agencies. They are everywhere because they have to be. Because wherever somebody who's for genuine reasons under surveillance, wherever they go, there have to be people there who know the territory, who can follow him or her around and so on. But when you're an innocent victim like myself and thousands of other people, you are being not just followed around, you're also being harassed by these people, who we call gang stalkers, but who in actual fact are essentially the HUMINTEL, the human intelligence network of the intelligence agencies. This incorporates actual street stalkers, handlers, people who play street theatre, miscellaneous saboteurs, operatives, those who break into homes and cars, who've got the skills to modify car radios, for example, like in my case, who can shoot at you with electromagnetic weapons and that lot. Well, typically, if you're a victim, you have seen these people yourself and you can do an assessment of what their skill level actually is. If you have never seen them, just do a thought experiment and try to figure out yourself what sort of person would possibly be willing to be outside, walking up and down the street, stalking people, drive up and down the motorway in their car, stalking people, shoot at them with microwave weapons without ever asking any questions if this is right, if this isn't actually extrajudicial torture or mutilation, without asking any questions, and would do this day in, day out for pay. So you probably come up with the answer that that's not exactly the most beneficial parts of society who are doing it. So you will end up with the realization that the gang stalking network and those people who shoot at others in their home with electromagnetic weapons, and those people who do hive mind or whatever other fancy, neural dust and human experimentation, bullshitty projects on innocent people by just grabbing them, taking their life apart, destroying them, and just for the sake of this experiment. Those people are probably the dregs of society. If you don't know, just wait a couple of years and you will actually hopefully get a couple of those people in court. But anyway, so this is it. And what it actually means in system terms is that the intelligence agencies take the dregs of society and they place them above us, like that. So you might be, a researcher at Oxford like myself who worked really hard, doesn't matter, but some jerk will still be able to harass you every single time you leave the house, will modify your car radio, or someone else will, but there will be a group. So remember, every single one of these magnets could also be a group. It's like a tier. But that tier has been placed above the productive layers. Now, I was also an entrepreneur, and there are many other entrepreneurs, and my business, my startup, has been essentially ground to dust by incessant infiltration, mocking, by set-up meetings, by infiltrating meetings I attended to frustrate me, to mock me, and yada yada. I have that from personal experience, but there are other entrepreneurs who should be here because they're just starting, and maybe one day they would have been the next, business leaders in the country. But instead, what the intelligence agencies are doing is take those entrepreneurs and place them down here. And it goes on and on and on. We now know about doctors who really would love to just actually help some of these idiots when they become ill and would even be willing to do that. But instead, what the intelligence agencies are doing is take them, harass them, You know, maybe if they don't want to play along with human experimentation in the hospital, they get pushed down, they get abrased, they get sacked, they are turned destitute. Some of them are irradiated, made to have cancer, made to die of cancer, and so on. And it goes on and on and on, because you also have reports of lawyers to whom the same thing happened, and other professions. So bit by bit, the intelligence agencies are taking the productive assets we have, and by the way, I just mentioned the professions for the sake of the argument, simply because an entrepreneur would have had the opportunity to create a team. If you are unemployed, or if you're a single mom and you're raising children, do not believe I consider you here dregs of society just because you're not one of the professionals. No, 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 no. That's not what I mean. If you're raising a child, you are obviously raising a child, right? You are a benefit to society, right? And it goes on and on and on like that, right? So that's not what I mean. Also, when you're unemployed, it doesn't mean you don't have to be in work to be a valuable contribution to society, because you're still interacting, even if you don't have a job. Even if you don't have a job and you're disabled, you are still having a beneficial influence on society, because remember, I'm talking about this in terms of influence. You still influence others. Your integrity places you still a tier up. So when in actual fact some idiot is promoted above you and you're then pushed down so that you're even more ill, you have even more problems, and so on, then this system inversion has already occurred, right? So I do not mean a tiering according to like income or, you know, job opportunities or some nonsense like that. That's not what I mean. I mean in terms of how beneficial are you to society. And you can be out of a job, you can be also alone, or, you know, many other things, but you still have a beneficial effect on society by helping others, by just interacting with others, spreading positive messages, by just being you yourself. You are a valuable person. And if you have high integrity, then you're essentially the glue that holds society together. You know, through your many interactions, you know, you are holding society together. And that's why I always say that our society is gluonic, being a particle physicist, because gluons are the ones who hold the nucleus together through their interactions. So we are all gluonic in that sense. But that's something for another topic, for another video. So just so that you understand what I mean here, I mean to say that the intelligence agencies take those who are literally harassing others without asking questions, or just doing absolutely dumb and nonsensical jobs like just stalking us. They are essentially the dregs of society, and they've been placed above us. But it gets worse than that, because the intelligence agencies don't just stop there. We now know that they also have infiltrated the newspapers. They told them they told the newspapers what to write and what not to write, and so on and so on. Well, what that means in real terms is that, again, they have taken the real journalists who would have been, you know, maybe would become the editors or the leaders of a newspaper, but instead of them becoming the editors, they have placed one of their people there who's following orders from them. And then the journalist goes one, you know, bit down. Maybe he stays on that tier, but maybe he also, if he speaks up, he gets gang stalked and ends up down here, you know, and so on and so on. So this kind of degradation on pushing people down happened over and over. And it's not just the media that got infiltrated by the intelligence agencies. As we now, bit by bit, find out more and more, it's also medical care for a lot of people. So heads of hospitals must have been corrupted. Heads of police must have been corrupted, because they haven't done anything about the microwave assaults, even though microwave weapons have been known about for absolutely decades. So the intelligence agencies, as it seems, have bit by bit infiltrated our society, so that by now, even the leaders of these institutions have been corrupted or infiltrated. Either way, they're not doing what they should be doing, they are doing what they are told, which is not really what they should be doing. So, what does this look like overall? Well, you place these people there, but what this means is that even an editor of a newspaper is not working as an editor anymore. He's essentially just working as a dumb mouthpiece of somebody else. Well, that's not being at this level, it's being several levels below. And what about the gang stalkers? Just because they have been given power over you doesn't mean that they suddenly gained, for example, the skills of a high energy physicist, or that they gained the skills of a doctor or a lawyer, or that they can raise children and care for their upbringing, right? No, nothing. It just means they're still the same dregs of society. They've just been given power over you. But that doesn't make them any more skilled. So nothing in terms of their skill has changed. So if these are skill levels, then they're not here, even though they're above you, they are still wherever they are. Oops, sorry. They are essentially, sorry, the magnets are very, very strong. Ooh, these are, I think, the strongest magnets I ever had. Sorry, let me just put them back up. So what we essentially have is, even though they have been given power over the victims, they are still the same dregs of society they always were. So that's already one step down, but it gets even worse than that, because the thought leaders, so-called, who are, you know, one tier up from them, here, well, they also do not really belong there, because what they're doing day to day is not really at that level. You know, a corrupted editor of a newspaper simply is just a corrupted editor of a newspaper who's just doing what he's told. Well, that's not on par with an entrepreneur who's developing a new country, new company for the country. No, even that, it doesn't matter how big the pay is, it is still just behaving like the dregs of society in a very corrupt fashion. So in actual fact, this tier is also not up there, it's on this level, as you would expect from the color coding. Oh god, not again. So, these magnets are very strong, so it's actually astounding how much force I have to put in. So, there we are. This is what our society looks like. So that's what the system inversion looked like already in my previous video, but now in the case of the intelligence agencies, it's clear what has happened here. By infiltration, by sabotaging the normal functioning of society, by taking gang stalkers and placing them, giving them power over us professionals and over us people of high integrity and hardworking single mothers and, you know, unemployed people trying to get a job and actually contributing to society, what they've actually done is actually even worse, because these people who are on this level, just being essentially just normal people, but just not very skilled and not very clever and not having very high integrity, they made them even worse because the intelligence agencies have activated them and made them actively do criminal acts. Well, that's even a level down from just being an unskilled person, right? It's being an actual criminal, which is one layer down. And by placing the victims at the mercy of criminals, what you actually have, this is now not skill, but this is effective. What can you contribute to society? You have got high skills and you have you know, high integrity, and you could contribute a lot of things, but you can't, because instead you're dealing every day with the non-stop criminality of these abject morons. So in actual real performance, you have been pushed into essentially the basement here. So this is now a system inversion on a national level, thanks to the intelligence agencies. And what does that look like? Well, here on this level, the leadership of our country, or be that the leadership of the intelligence agencies, is still up there, right? But now there is a huge drop, right? Instead of these advisors being actually on this level genuinely and advising these people at the top properly, they are a bunch of idiots. And the actual advice these people get, or interaction or even information, is from down here. So it is essentially on level with the bottom of society. That's what happened. So by doing that, you can still be the leader of the empire if you like, but what you essentially have down here is just bullshit. And this is why this formation is what I call the empire of bullshit, right? This is the empire of bullshit formation. This entire thing here, right? That's what it is. It has to be, right? Because it is just a rule of you know, system physics that this is going to happen. If you promote unskilled people above your skilled people, of course you're going to degrade your society. There's another way to make this bleeding obvious, right? I mean, people pointed out that these diagrams are very simple. Yes, I know that they're simple. This is not the best thing I can do. This is what I need to tell people, because these are the mistakes that we're doing in our society, right? Yes, it just shows you how simple this is, and yet we've done that. So, for example, when you have news reports, like in The Guardian and many other British newspapers, about the budget of MI5 doubling after 2003 and their headcount tripling, you should think, hang on a second, these processes come about through infiltration, through expanding the stalking network, right? And if you expand an organization so rapidly to such a vast scale, you have very little control about the quality of your personnel plummets. It must do, because there are not that many absolutely outstanding people out there, who would be great at the job. So what you have done is essentially just, recruited every Tom, Dick and Harry, right? And of course your quality is going to drop. But also keep in mind, as I explained in my other video called Deprogramming from Brainwash, that if you have the intelligence agencies, you essentially have sabotage agencies, because they're either through spying, sabotage other people's privacy, other people's economic endeavors, and so on, right? That's the default. Yes, they might do something beneficial, but frankly, more and more these days, you figure out that that's actually a very small fraction of their day-to-day work. Bottom line is, spying is essentially sabotaging privacy, sabotaging things. So, that's one thing. The other thing is a secret service. Anything that's secret, as I try to explain with the other systems talks about capture and psychopaths, right? A secret organization will always be vulnerable and in the end succumb to capture through criminal elements or through psychopaths. So a secret service sooner or later will become a criminal service. So when you have a secret intelligence service, what you have is a criminal sabotage service. Invariably. You can try as hard as you like, you can go on until you're blue in the face that that's not going to happen, but because you're just one person and you can't really control this huge organization around you, that's what's going to happen according to the laws of system physics. That's just what's bound to happen. It doesn't matter how great you are. And that's exactly here as well. Here, I even granted the leaders of this society true golden boy status. These people are beautiful and intelligent and everything. Nevertheless, their society is going to the dogs, and fast. And that's invariably going to happen. Okay, right? Now the other thing that's happening here is that the people who are the leaders, even though the society is breaking, and in fact, due to human factors, the more society is collapsing, the harder the people here who would like to keep their nominally high positions up here are going to do their absolute utmost to appear like they're on par. So they will suck knowledge and input from below, from the productive people here. This could be by stealing intellectual property from inventors and passing them off as their own, or it could be by sabotaging their competitors so that their business endeavors look more promising and so on, and they really look like genuine business leaders, but in actual fact they're just saboteurs, sabotaging everybody else and keeping everybody else's business down. So these people will try to pretend that they're up here, and also they will spare no costs. By the way, the money is usually extracted from down here, but they will spare no costs to create an illusion, and a really thick illusion, around these leaders here. And essentially they will try to put up what's generally called Potemkin villages and false facades of absolute glory, pomp and circumstance, right? So the leaders, especially in the empire of bullshit, will be surrounded by these golden cages, wonderful mansions, chateaus, planes, jet-setting lifestyle. Everything's beautiful, just beautiful people around them, and so on and so on. And you can check that this is invariably happening by just looking at the history books. What happened to big empires, the leaders of empires. Look at what happened to dictatorships everywhere around the world, and so on and so on. There are plenty of examples that that's exactly going to happen. But the leaders will not realize that that's just an illusion, and actually, behind this facade, there's a big drop down to the absolute dregs of society, and the people who would have been here have been depleted. Now, of course, in an actual real society, you know, this top tier doesn't just consist of 2 people. It could be just thousands and thousands of leaders in your country. Some people are still genuine leaders, but others have been pushed down. So it will be a lot more asymmetric and varying in a real society, but the overall effect will be the same thing. Overall, society has been degraded, because even if you're one genuinely, you know, genuine business leader, if all your competitors around you, other genuine, you know, hardworking and intelligent business leaders have been depleted, then you will have a hard time essentially coming up with, you know, or talking up against all the idiots around you in the business sector, right? So that's invariably going to happen. So you will be dragged down to this level, whatever. So that is the empire of bullshit. I would like to stop here, and in the next video I'll explain what to do to actually fight the empire of bullshit. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.